Your doctor has almost certainly never sat you down to explain which snacks are actually good for your kidneys. I want to tell you why, because the reason reveals everything about our medical system. An average kidney appointment in this country lasts about 12 minutes. There's a billing code for writing a prescription and a billing code for ordering a scan, but there's no code whatsoever for the 10 quiet minutes required to explain what you ought to reach for at 3 in the afternoon. So dietary advice is the very first thing cut every single time. It's one of the most valuable health conversations that simply never fits into the appointment. I'm Dr. William Lee, and in my 20 years practicing internal medicine, I've sat across the desk from hundreds of patients over 60. I've watched their creatinine levels climb on lab reports while they felt completely helpless, believing there was nothing they could do about it. But there is something you can do. Today, I'm going to share 5 ordinary snacks, the exact kind sitting in any grocery store you already shop at, and explain precisely why each one works at the level of your kidney's microscopic filters. I'll show you how to prepare every single one so it supports your kidneys rather than quietly damaging them. Plus, I'll reveal the common snacking mistakes I see careful, well-meaning people make every week that secretly sabotage their progress. I'd wager that at least half of what you're about to learn is information you've never heard from anyone else. Before we move any further, I want to be completely straight with you, because I know you've been misled by false promises on the internet before. I'm not going to claim these 5 snacks will magically cure your kidney disease, reverse it, or undo years of accumulated damage. Saying that would be a lie, and you'd be entirely right to click off this video. What I am offering is something far more honest and grounded. The food you put into your body, when selected thoughtfully and prepared properly, directly alters how hard your kidneys are forced to work. And a kidney that works less hard is a kidney that stays stable for much longer. I have nothing to sell you here. This is pure human physiology backed by research from kidney specialists at the National Institutes of Health, as well as nutritional guidance from the Mayo Clinic and Cleveland Clinic. Let me clarify exactly who I'm speaking to today. If your latest lab work showed your creatinine creeping past 1.2, 1.5, or even higher, if a doctor has used terms like stage 3 or stage 4 chronic kidney disease, or if you're waking up 2, 3, or 4 times every night to use the bathroom and starting to dread bedtime, you are the precise person I created this guide for. Our roadmap today is simple, making it well worth sticking around until the end. First, in about 90 seconds, I'll explain what creatinine actually represents and why that lab value keeps rising. Once you grasp that biological mechanism, all 5 snacks will make absolute sense. After that, we'll walk through each snack one by one. By the finish line, you'll know exactly which items to buy this week, how to prepare them to protect your kidneys, and how to read your own lab reports with newfound confidence. Now, let me give you the 90-second medical explanation that almost no doctor takes the time to share. Creatinine is fundamentally a waste byproduct. Every single time your muscles contract and do work, they burn a compound called creatine for energy. Creatinine is simply the metabolic trash left behind. It travels through your bloodstream until your kidneys filter it out and dump it into your urine. In a perfectly healthy body, creatinine is constantly generated and constantly removed, keeping its concentration in your blood consistently low. Your kidneys accomplish this filtering through roughly 1 million microscopic filters per kidney, known as nephrons, a term worth remembering. When those nephrons suffer damage from years of elevated blood sugar, unmanaged high blood pressure, or the steady progression of kidney disease, filtering efficiency drops. The waste your muscles produce keeps accumulating faster than your kidneys can remove it, leading to higher levels in your blood. That's precisely why your lab results start showing readings of 1.5, 1.8, 2.0, and beyond. Pay close attention here, because this insight changes how you view your diagnosis. That creatinine number doesn't merely measure how many filters have been damaged. It also directly reacts to 2 factors that fall entirely under your personal control every single day. First, the overall volume of waste you force your kidneys to process. Second, the amount of ongoing structural damage your filters endure from systemic inflammation and compromised blood supply. Every single snack on our list targets one of these 2 key levers: reducing the waste load or shielding the filters from further harm. That is the core strategy, and your fork represents one of the few daily tools where you hold absolute control. The first snack is something I suggest to almost every kidney patient I consult. Yet when I ask if they currently eat it, nearly everyone says no. Red grapes. I can already predict the common pushback because I hear it in my office every week. Doctor, aren't grapes loaded with sugar when I'm supposed to be watching my blood sugar? Stick with me because the scientific reality is far more nuanced than a basic yes or no. Red grapes are packed with a natural plant compound called resveratrol. You've likely heard it mentioned alongside red wine, but what wine marketers fail to tell you is that whole grape resveratrol is infinitely more beneficial to your body than anything derived from alcoholic beverages. Besides, alcohol is the last burden a compromised kidney should have to deal with. Within kidney tissue, resveratrol acts to soothe oxidative stress, the cellular damage inflicted by unstable molecules called free radicals. In impaired kidneys, this destruction accelerates rapidly, leading to progressive nephron scarring year after year. Resveratrol functions as a potent antioxidant, helping put the brakes on that destructive cycle. The outer skin of the red grape delivers an additional layer of targeted protection. It is rich in specialized flavonoids known as quercetin and anthocyanins, the natural pigments giving the grape its characteristic deep red and purple hue. Emerging scientific research links these specific compounds to decreased protein leakage in urine. If your doctor has ever mentioned proteinuria, or if you frequently notice foamy urine in the toilet bowl, that foam is typically protein spilling through compromised filters that ought to keep it safely in your blood. Furthermore, red grapes provide another vital advantage for kidney care that popular health articles rarely highlight. They are remarkably low in potassium. A half-cup portion contains roughly 88 milligrams of potassium, whereas a single banana packs over 400 milligrams. For anyone navigating stage 3 or stage 4 kidney disease, that disparity is critical. Impaired kidneys struggle to flush out excess potassium, and elevated potassium levels can trigger dangerous cardiac arrhythmias. Finding a sweet, satisfying fruit that respects your potassium limits is both rare and exceptionally valuable. Here is the optimal way to incorporate them into your daily diet. Select fresh, whole red grapes, wash them thoroughly, and keep them chilled in your refrigerator. Enjoy about half a cup, roughly 15 to 20 grapes, as a mid-morning or mid-afternoon snack. Now, here is a practical trick I share with my clinic patients that few people discuss. Pair that half cup of grapes with a small serving of protein, like a couple of unsalted walnuts or a bite of low-sodium cheese. The added protein slows down sugar absorption, allowing you to harvest the anti-inflammatory resveratrol without triggering a rapid blood sugar spike. However, watch out for two crucial mistakes. First, never substitute grape juice for whole fruit. Juicing strips away the dietary fiber and concentrates fruit sugars into a form that rapidly spikes glucose. Second, steer clear of raisins. Dehydrating grapes concentrates their potassium content exponentially, up to nearly 750 milligrams in a mere quarter cup. That shifts a kidney-friendly choice into a serious dietary hazard. Finally, choose red grapes over green varieties, as green grapes lack those key protective pigments. Here, the deep color is literally part of the medicine. Let me ask you an important question. Has a doctor ever advised you to cut back on protein intake to safeguard your kidneys? If so, pay close attention to what I'm about to explain, because getting this wrong can harm your health in two distinct ways. Consuming excessive amounts of the wrong protein overworks compromised kidneys. Yet consuming too little protein leads to severe muscle wasting, the very muscle keeping you mobile, stable, and protected against devastating falls. Our second snack hits the absolute sweet spot: cooked egg whites. Here's why egg whites stand in a tier of their own for individuals over 60 managing kidney health. When your metabolism breaks down protein, it creates nitrogenous waste, notably urea, measured on your labs as blood urea nitrogen, BUN. Struggling kidneys must strain to filter out this urea buildup. Decades ago, standard medical advice was simply to slash overall protein intake to lighten this burden. Unfortunately, that blanket advice created an unintended medical crisis. Adults over 60 naturally lose muscle mass every year through sarcopenia, the age related decline in lean tissue. And here is a paradox that surprises even many doctors. Severe muscle loss can actually distort your creatinine readings, making them appear worse while leaving your body frail and highly vulnerable to falls, a far greater health threat than any isolated lab figure. The far smarter approach has been readily available all along. Select high efficiency protein sources that your body metabolizes almost entirely, leaving minimal nitrogenous waste behind. That is precisely the therapeutic benefit egg whites offer. Egg whites boast the highest biological value of any whole dietary protein available. Simply put, your digestive system utilizes nearly every gram of amino acid provided, generating minimal waste for your kidney filters to clear out. Less waste product translates directly to less filtration strain, delivering real relief if your BUN numbers are running high. Additionally, egg whites offer another major structural benefit for anyone in stage 3 or stage 4 kidney disease. They are virtually free of phosphorus. Phosphorus is a key mineral that declining kidneys fail to excrete efficiently. When phosphorus accumulates in the bloodstream, it pulls calcium from your skeleton, weakening bones and calcifying blood vessels. Since nearly all of an egg's phosphorus is concentrated within the yellow yolk, discarding the yolk lets you consume pure, top-tier protein without straining your body's phosphorus balance. Here is the ideal way to prepare them for optimal health. Lightly scramble 2 to 3 egg whites in a skillet with a splash of extra virgin olive oil, avoiding any added salt. Flavor them generously with fresh herbs like parsley or chives, or simply hard boil whole eggs and pop out the yolks. If you prefer the convenience of liquid egg whites in a carton, examine the ingredient label closely. Certain manufacturers add hidden sodium as a preservative. Look for brands that keep sodium content under 100 milligrams per serving. The most frequent mistake I notice in clinical practice is someone consuming a single egg white and calling it a complete snack. To effectively preserve lean muscle mass, you should target roughly 10 to 15 grams of quality protein per sitting, which translates to 3 or 4 egg whites. A quick medical caution. If you suffer from advanced kidney disease, late stage 4 moving into stage 5, your protein intake needs precise, individualized calibration. Partner directly with your nephrologist to establish your exact target. However, for most individuals navigating earlier stages, intelligent protein choices like egg whites are an indispensable asset, not a danger. Our third snack will likely catch you completely off guard. In fact, it surprised half of my medical colleagues when we discussed it. Potatoes. This is the exact food that almost every renal diet pamphlet in America instructs you to eliminate immediately. Yet, I'm advising you to put them back on your plate thanks to a specific culinary technique documented in renal dietetics textbooks for decades that rarely gets communicated to everyday patients. Potatoes are traditionally banned because of their high potassium content, which is entirely accurate in their raw state. However, potassium possesses a fundamental physical property that few people realize. It is water soluble. This means you can physically extract a massive percentage of the potassium content before you ever take a single bite. Specialized kidney dietitians refer to this prep method as leaching. Here is the step-by-step procedure to leach a potato properly. Begin by peeling the skin entirely. Next, slice the potato into thin pieces, roughly 1/8 of an inch thick. The thinner you slice them, the greater the surface area exposed to the liquid. Submerge the slices in a large pot filled with warm water and let them soak for a minimum of 4 hours. Midway through this soaking window, drain and refresh the water once. Afterwards, discard the soaking water, rinse the slices thoroughly under cold running water, and boil them in fresh, unsalted water until tender. Executed correctly, this method extracts 30 to 50% of the inherent potassium, leaving those minerals behind in the discarded water. To be clear, leaching doesn't eliminate all potassium, so this isn't an open invitation to eat unrestricted quantities, but it successfully transforms a high potassium food into a moderate potassium option that many stage 3 kidney patients can safely savor with their nephrologist's clearance. Sure, grabbing a handful of processed crackers is far easier. I completely recognize that. However, maintaining genuine food enjoyment and quality of life is the primary factor that dictates whether someone stays on a renal diet long term. A real potato is warm, hearty, easy to digest, and deeply satisfying in a manner that dry rice cakes or celery sticks can never duplicate. When patients feel constantly restricted and hungry, they eventually abandon dietary guidance altogether, and completely quitting a kidney conscious diet inflicts significantly more long term damage than enjoying a properly leached potato ever will. Here is my personal clinical recommendation for preparing them. Take 2 small white potatoes and leach them precisely using the method described. Boil them in fresh water, then gently mash them with a light drizzle of extra virgin olive oil, finely chopped fresh rosemary, and a bright splash of fresh lemon juice. Stick to a portion size of about half a cup per serving. Crucially, avoid 2 common pitfalls. First, never simply microwave a whole potato and assume you've achieved the same outcome. Microwaving cooks the starches but leaves every milligram of potassium intact inside the flesh. The detailed slicing, soaking, and boiling steps are non-negotiable. Second, do not fall for the myth that replacing white potatoes with sweet potatoes is automatically healthier. While that might hold true for general wellness, kidney physiology follows entirely different rules. A medium sweet potato packs over 500 milligrams of potassium, making it a major risk unless subjected to the exact same rigorous leaching protocol. A general healthy diet and a specialized kidney diet are fundamentally distinct, and confusing the two can cause genuine clinical harm. Before we move forward, I'd like to ask for a small favor that directly supports this educational channel. If you're finding these insights valuable, please share your age in the comments section below. If you happen to know your most recent creatinine reading or eGFR value, include those as well. I personally review your responses to help shape our upcoming educational content. Also, taking a brief moment to tap that like button assists YouTube's algorithm in sharing this vital guidance with other adults over 60 who are feeling anxious about their lab reports and lacking clear explanations. Thank you for doing that. Now, let's press on, because our final 2 snacks involve options that most patients never connect with kidney preservation. The 4th snack is a powerhouse I recommend to virtually every kidney patient I treat, regardless of their specific disease stage: cauliflower. The physiological benefits extend far deeper than the basic bullet points printed on clinical diet sheets. Starting with the nutritional fundamentals, cauliflower is inherently low in potassium, delivering only about 150 milligrams per half-cup serving. It is similarly low in phosphorus and sodium, while supplying abundant levels of vitamin C and folate. This is particularly crucial as individuals managing kidney disease, especially those adhering to strict diets or undergoing dialysis, frequently develop deficiencies in these essential water-soluble vitamins. But the deeper medical story lies within its cellular chemistry. Cauliflower belongs to the cruciferous vegetable family, sharing lineage with broccoli, cabbage, and Brussels sprouts. These plants contain a unique phytonutrient called indole-3-carbinol, which your body metabolizes into diindolylmethane, commonly known as DIM. Emerging scientific research indicates DIM helps suppress systemic inflammation by downregulating the NF kappa B pathway, the primary master switch controlling cellular inflammatory responses. That concept of inflammation is pivotal to understanding kidney progression. In chronic kidney disease, a quiet, low grade, smoldering inflammatory process drives ongoing nephron scarring, causing creatinine levels to rise even when you feel completely symptom free. I want to remain completely objective and avoid exaggerating scientific data here. Clinical research examining this specific isolated compound and its direct impact on human kidney tissue is ongoing, and I am certainly not promising that eating cauliflower alone will magically drop your creatinine. What I am clearly stating is that dampening underlying systemic inflammation represents a foundational pillar in slowing chronic kidney disease progression, as emphasized by nephrology researchers at the National Institutes of Health. Cauliflower serves as an exceptionally safe, nutrient-dense whole food that actively aligns with that therapeutic goal. There was another significant health advantage worth highlighting that links directly to those exhausting nighttime bathroom trips: disrupts your sleep. Cauliflower is an excellent source of choline, an essential nutrient vital for maintaining the structural integrity of your kidney's renal tubular cells. These specialized cells perform the critical work of concentrating urine and reabsorbing fluid back into your circulation. When tubular cells suffer damage or dysfunction, your kidneys produce excessive volumes of diluted urine, forcing you out of bed repeatedly at 2 in the morning. While direct clinical trials linking dietary choline to reduced nocturia are still emerging, the underlying biological mechanism is extremely compelling. Given that cauliflower is an inherently safe, wholesome food, incorporating it regularly offers tremendous potential upside with zero medical risk. Let's focus on the most appetizing ways to prepare it. One of my personal favorite kitchen hacks is preparing what I call kidney rice. Simply place raw cauliflower florets into a food processor and pulse until they break down into rice-sized grains. Steam or microwave them for 2 to 3 minutes without adding extra water, then toss with fresh herbs, a squeeze of lemon juice, and a light drizzle of extra virgin olive oil. It yields a warm, comforting, and deeply satisfying side dish in minutes. Alternatively, roast fresh florets at 400 degrees Fahrenheit, tossed in olive oil and a dash of garlic powder until the edges turn crisp and golden brown. The single biggest mistake to avoid is purchasing frozen cauliflower packaged with pre-made cheese sauces. Scanning those ingredient panels usually reveals massive loads of added sodium and synthetic phosphate additives, both of which wreak havoc on impaired kidneys. Stick with plain fresh or plain frozen cauliflower and control the seasonings yourself. Now, let's dive into our fifth and final snack. This option routinely catches patients by surprise, as well as a few doctors who haven't reviewed recent updates in renal nutrition: macadamia nuts. If you've previously been instructed to eliminate all nuts due to kidney disease, let me explain why that sweeping ban is increasingly obsolete and why macadamias belong in a class by themselves. Historically, advising kidney patients to avoid nuts made total sense. For instance, a single 1-ounce serving of almonds delivers nearly 200 milligrams of potassium and 136 milligrams of phosphorus. For an individual managing stage 3 or stage 4 CKD, processing that double mineral load creates significant strain. But macadamia nuts operate on a completely different nutritional profile. 1 ounce, roughly 10 to 12 nuts, contains merely 104 milligrams of potassium and just 53 milligrams of phosphorus. These figures are substantially lower than almost any other popular nut on the market. That key difference transforms macadamias from a restricted food into a remarkably safe treat that actively supports your vascular system. Macadamia nuts are packed with premium monounsaturated fatty acids, specifically oleic acid, the exact heart protective lipid that gives extra virgin olive oil its legendary health status. This asset is vital not just for your cardiovascular system, but directly for your renal function as well, given that heart disease and kidney disease almost always progress side by side. Specialists at both the National Institutes of Health and the American Heart Association stress a startling reality. Individuals diagnosed with chronic kidney disease are statistically far more likely to suffer a cardiovascular event than to reach complete renal failure. The identical inflammatory processes and vascular breakdown that compromise kidney filters also damage arteries throughout the rest of your body. Monounsaturated fats assist in lowering harmful LDL cholesterol while restoring endothelial function, the delicate inner lining of your blood vessels. Flexible, healthy blood vessels ensure robust, oxygenated blood flow directly into your renal architecture, providing those delicate microfilters the precise circulation required to sustain their vital work. Emerging scientific literature also hints that these healthy monounsaturated lipids may assist in blunting protein spillage across kidney filters, whereas diets laden with harmful saturated fats tend to aggravate filter permeability. While we must await larger clinical trials, the broader medical consensus remains highly consistent, making macadamia nuts a standout dietary addition. Furthermore, they serve as one of the few truly satisfying, crunchy snack options for individuals juggling both kidney health and diabetes management, as they exert virtually zero impact on blood glucose spikes. However, practicing strict portion control is essential, given their high caloric density. Limit your serving size to exactly 1 ounce, about 10 to 12 whole nuts. Always select raw, unsalted nuts whenever possible. If raw aren't accessible, opt for dry roasted versions with zero added oils or sodium. Strictly avoid flavored varieties coated in honey, caramel, or savory glazes, as those processed coatings are packed with hidden sugars, excess sodium, and harmful phosphate preservatives. Here is a convenient daily habit I frequently suggest to my clinical patients. Measure 10 to 12 macadamia nuts into a small, reusable container and pair them in the afternoon with 4 or 5 fresh red grapes from our first recommendation, assuming your daily potassium limits allow it. This combination creates a nutrient-rich, kidney-conscious snack requiring zero cooking time. One essential non-medical warning before we move on. This has nothing to do with your lab work, but everything to do with the family dog resting at your feet. Macadamia nuts are highly toxic to canines. Please ensure they are stored safely out of reach of your household pets. Let me tell you about a patient I'll refer to as Walter, because his journey perfectly illustrates why I create these educational videos. Walter first sat in my consultation room at age 67. Over the preceding 2 years, his serum creatinine had slowly crept upward until his medical records formally designated stage 3 chronic kidney disease. Both his blood pressure and fasting blood sugars had hovered in unhealthy ranges throughout his 60s. During our initial visit, he expressed a sentiment I hear constantly from patients. He felt completely fine physically, which made those alarming lab values feel deeply unfair and confusing. Every previous medical visit ended with another prescription bottle, but never a single meaningful discussion about his daily diet. He confessed to waking up 3 times every single night to use the bathroom, a burden he suffered in silence, which had quietly forced him to stop traveling altogether. He was terrified in that quiet, isolated way people become when lab values steadily worsen without anyone offering actionable steps they can control. Together, we implemented a targeted 2-part strategy. First, he remained strictly compliant with every medication prescribed by his nephrologist, because dietary adjustments must complement medical therapy, never replace it. Second, we transformed his snacking habits using the precise 5 foods we've detailed today. He traded his usual afternoon processed crackers for fresh red grapes, coupled with a small portion of macadamia nuts. He mastered the technique of leaching white potatoes, and his wife started substituting cauliflower rice into their dinner routines. Over the subsequent months, alongside routine monitoring and medical care, his lab trends stabilized. I want to be extremely clear here, as I refuse to make exaggerated claims. His creatinine didn't magically plummet back to youthful baselines. Rather, it completely halted its upward trajectory and held steady. His blood pressure readings improved, and his nighttime bathroom trips decreased dramatically, from 3 times per night down to just one. Yet, Walter confided that his biggest victory wasn't the lab chart itself. It was the profound sense of empowerment gained from actively protecting his kidney function instead of watching them decline helplessly. I must also share the alternative outcome, because I've witnessed it far too often in my career. This is the individual who absorbs this information, sincerely intends to adjust their habits, but continuously postpones taking action, only to return 12 months later facing degraded lab values and significantly restricted therapeutic choices. The dividing line between these two paths is rarely a matter of willpower or financial resources. Ultimately, the difference comes down to action. One person commits to a single, manageable habit change immediately while the knowledge is fresh, whereas the other waits for an elusive someday that never arrives. Here is the core principle unifying all 5 of these snack recommendations. The primary takeaway I hope stays with you long after this video ends. Every single one of these choices functions by systematically lowering the operational strain on your kidney filters. That is the fundamental secret. Once you absorb that biological reality, your perspective on daily nutrition changes permanently. Egg whites minimize the volume of nitrogenous waste your body generates. Red grapes and cauliflower help quell the chronic inflammation that gradually scars filter architecture over time. Macadamia nuts deliver healthy fats that shield the vascular network, delivering blood to those filters. And every culinary technique we've reviewed, from leaching potatoes to cooking without added salt and selecting whole fruit over juices, is deliberately engineered to prevent potassium, phosphorus, and sodium overload in a filtration system that can no longer process excess mineral burdens. This perspective reframes how you ought to interpret your creatinine measurements. For years, you may have viewed creatinine solely as an unyielding scorecard of permanent tissue damage, almost like a final medical verdict. But in reality, it serves as a real-time reflection of the immediate workload you impose on your kidneys daily. And that daily workload is something your personal choices directly influence 3 times a day at mealtimes. You did not develop chronic kidney disease out of personal carelessness. Renal decline at this stage of life typically stems from decades of cumulative high blood pressure, fluctuating blood sugars, vascular aging, and microscopic changes that took root long before you ever had reason to worry. However, the daily filtration burden your kidneys must carry moving forward is something you can actively lighten today. Mitigating that operational workload represents one of the few aspects of this condition that stays firmly within your personal control, requiring no prescription, no insurance copay, and no doctor's permission. So, what concrete steps should you take starting tonight? Let's keep this completely actionable. First, write down a quick shopping list while these concepts are fresh. Fresh red grapes, a carton of whole eggs or egg whites, a few white potatoes, a head of fresh cauliflower, and a small bag of raw, unsalted macadamia nuts. That's the entire list. Second, commit to introducing just one snack to begin with, rather than overhauling all 5 at once. The individual who tries to revolutionize their entire diet overnight usually reverts to old habits within a week. The simplest starting point is swapping your afternoon treat for a half cup of red grapes and 10 macadamia nuts. Execute that consistently, and you've taken a massive step forward. Third, practice leaching a potato at home this week. It's an empowering culinary skill that restores a beloved comfort food to your table safely. Fourth, eliminate added salt across all meal prep. opting instead for vibrant herbs, squeezed lemon juice, and quality extra virgin olive oil, while rigorously scanning package labels for hidden sodium and phosphate additives. Fifth, and most importantly, maintain strict continuity with your nephrologist. Keep up with scheduled lab draws and track your metrics like creatinine, GFR, potassium, and phosphorus, ensuring these dietary strategies support your prescribed medical care rather than replacing it. Now, let me emphasize the critical medical disclaimer I include in every video, as it is paramount to your safety. There comes a point where nutritional adjustments transition from a kitchen decision into a necessary conversation with your physician. If you are navigating stage 4 or stage 5 kidney disease, or if you have a clinical history of elevated serum potassium, please do not execute drastic dietary overhauls based solely on internet videos, including this one. In advanced renal impairment, precise potassium and protein allowances must be tailored to your specific lab values, as excessive potassium can induce severe cardiac complications. Bring these ideas to your nephrologist or a licensed renal dietitian and collaborate to design an individualized meal strategy. I've detailed the underlying physiology today so that these recommendations make intuitive sense, empowering you to make informed decisions. Here is the core belief I want you to carry away tonight. A rising creatinine reading is not a helpless sentence you are forced to passively accept. Today, you've been introduced to 5 accessible, affordable foods readily available at your local market. 5 concrete strategies to alleviate the daily burden borne by the microscopic filters that have served you quietly every minute of your life. You now possess the exact preparation methods required to consume them safely. Your kidneys have labored tirelessly for you every second of every day without complaint since before you were born. Tonight, you have the knowledge and tools to start working for them. Before you log off, I ask 3 small actions of you. Pick just one of these snacks and add it to your shopping cart this week, not someday. Tap the like button if this breakdown explained concepts your brief 12-minute doctor's visit couldn't accommodate, helping YouTube distribute this vital knowledge to fellow seniors who truly need it. Finally, drop a comment below with your age and your latest creatinine or eGFR reading so I can tailor our future medical topics directly to your needs. Take wonderful care of yourself and take good care of your kidneys.